Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Most people want to hear about, which is the Spurs Thunder Game 5. So I think the last time we podcast, I think it was 1-0, right? It was 1-0 for the Thunder. So lots has happened. Oklahoma City took game 2, and then game 3, San Antonio kind of where am I? Game 3, Oklahoma City took that one as well, and then the Spurs took it to them in game 4, and now in game 5 we have the Thunder winning. What are some thoughts that you have been seeing in this series, or like where do you want to start the conversation off here, Clint, with this series?
I just think Oklahoma City, they've really done a good job, minus one game now, which was game 4, where the Spurs kind of had their way. The adjustments they have made have gone a long way. It's one of the things we talked about that I mentioned, like sometimes you got to drive a little further on Wemby. In a couple of these games, like it doesn't look pretty, but SGA goes all the way to him, like into his body, hits him, and then either does a fadeaway or pass. But, they've really, with the exception of game 4, I don't want to say negated Wemby because obviously he minus tonight, puts up numbers, is impactful.
Hmm.
But between him and Hartenstein, it just they've really kind of made it a struggle for him to kind of impact defensively like we saw in game 1.
Yeah, I think you're right about that because, like, even what they're talking about, like them driving into Wimby, it's like he has to wait just a half a second longer or seconds longer before he then can release from the like double team on Shea and go to the shooter. So like Caruso is just eating him up right now, right? Like so, every time Victor's covering Caruso is hitting wide open threes because they're driving in very deep and Wembanyama has to double and then run out. So I think that has worked. I would say like the one thing game 4 was probably the blowout game, but that was the first game, right, without Mitchell and Williams. And I think
Yeah.
that was more probably the reason why there was such a big blowout is because the Thunder really had to adjust on the fly, and I think it seemed like in this game they kind of figured out with McCain, who has the biggest of green lights, but man, it didn't look like it was going to work out at first, but it worked out towards the end. This is kind of the McCain game, right?
Yeah, and he's kind of like perfect for their team. He's not a great defender, which you can overcome with what Oklahoma City does. But if he chucks too much and he's off, I mean, they can just take him out.
Right.
But because the Thunder do a really good job of second chance points, turnovers, they're usually winning the possession battle of these games anyhow. So if
Hmm.
McCain gets a little shot happy, fine. Like his percentages aren't awesome,
Right.
but hey, you need someone to get those shots up. And as we saw, he hit that like catch and shoot 28 footer or whatever,
Hmm.
like no hesitation. I think that was towards the end of the third quarter. That alters the defense in itself because they know he's going to shoot it. And that's what we talk about a lot. A lot of times, sometimes it's not even that you're an awesome shooter. It's that they know the shot is going to go up so they can test it. 3 for 9 from 3 isn't awesome. I think he
Hmm.
was 2 for 10 the other game and 3 for 9 again. Like, I mean, his percentages aren't awesome, but he is like that microwave scorer that even if his percentages aren't awesome, they have to account for him all the time.
Right. And I think like you saw that in this game where his shooting was like off to start it, and then it got hot, then it got cold, and it got hot. I felt like he did a good job when Fox was guarding him. I felt like he was getting by Fox and he was creating and hitting his shot. Um, let's see. Any other takeaways? Let's start with the Thunder, and then we'll go back to the Spurs. So any other takeaways on the Thunder side of the ball in this series so far? I mean, Caruso's been just right, like ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, his shooting again, not like a movement shooter, but similar to what we saw with the Knicks and Josh Hart. If you're going to give these guys like practice threes, they're going to make them more than they miss, even even bad shooters for the most part. And he's, he's not Ben Simmons out there. So
Right.
he's getting open shots. And as we talked about before, a lot of times it's the confidence of just knowing where you're going to get your shots. And even though Wemby's closing out, like we talked about, he's so far away that he doesn't have to rush him. Like sometimes, in game one, where they were kind of panicked and he's closing out, and then you're thinking of it because he's a lot closer than you probably thought.
Yeah, and you know what I really like about Caruso too is he's not afraid of Wembanyama. Like he'll sometimes drive and challenge him. I like that. He got a couple fouls. I think one for sure tonight on Wembanyama by driving it. Any other takeaways on the Thunder side of the basketball so far this series?
Hartenstein.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it was that game three. He basically fouled the foul. Maybe it was game two. He just basically fouled the heck out of him for the whole game, and then they've kind of cleaned that up. But again, that's what you kind of look for. And he went from a guy like, I don't know if he can play in this series, to he's outplaying Chet.
Yeah.
There's large stretches of this game where they're playing him and not Chet. Like even tonight, 31 minutes, Chet still played 30, and Chet probably had one of his better games with 16 and 11, but even at that. But Hartenstein being able to get the boards, be physical, and even though I think he's doing a better job of being physical without just constantly fouling like we saw before, which is kind of irritating. But you got to hit Victor. You got to keep him away, move around, 15 boards, a lot of them tap outs, offensive rebounds kind of killed the Spurs in stretches of this game. So I think he's probably, besides Caruso and McCain, I think Hartenstein is like the guy for this series that they were able to like unearth him and let him play 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's wearing on Wembanyama. I mean, we'll talk about him when we get to the Spurs, but it's just it's almost like every other game. It's like he's there one game and the next game it's like it's not that he won't put up numbers because he's Wembanyama, he's 7'7", but it's like you could just tell the effort is just at a different level. We'll talk about that in a second. So Chet's the other guy that's sort of interesting in this series, because he's apprehensive. I thought today he was more decisive, tonight's game. But then I thought there was like he got hot right away. I think he was 5 for 6. And then like the Thunder, to be fair to Chet, like the Thunder just stopped going to him. And I didn't quite understand that because like it's like just keep giving him the ball and let him work that little 15-foot fadeaway. So I don't understand that, but like they need Chet to, if he can be 16-11 every night the rest of the series. Well, it might be one or two games, but I think that's going to go a long way. But he needs to definitely be assertive, and I think the Thunder need to do a little bit better job is when he's actually doing that and being assertive, like getting him the ball in those mismatches because he's taller than anyone that guards him other than Wembanyama.
Yeah, I mean, he's like you said, started out awesome. I just think he's like a flow of the offense guy. And sometimes maybe it's stuff we don't catch or the way the Spurs cover the ball handlers or switch it up that they don't feel comfortable throwing it to Chet unless he's like in that mid range. Because again, tonight there was 2 or 3 times when he caught it at the 3-point line and he had nothing.
Yeah, he didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And even defensively, like Champagny went at him like twice for layups, and you're like, all right. So I think Chet is 16-11 is good, and if they get this kind of game out of him, they're going to get through this series and probably have a good shot to win it all. It's just like I've said before, I think Chet is more of a dependent player than a lot of things we hear about him. And sometimes series like this, I know the Spurs are a pretty good defensive team, but like those shots he were hitting were like, okay, we threw it to him in a spot and he's tall and he shot it, he shoots it over some smaller guys, which is fine. But outside of that, he really gets nothing going himself. And that's kind of like one of those red flags if they ever went to move and you were on a different team and so on and so forth. That's way ahead of that, way ahead of everything. But he needs to get in the spots. And I think you're right. They kind of lost track of that. But they won this game comfortably. So
Yeah, yeah, there was just a couple times where like McCain would run like he would have like Vassell or Johnson on him and he's posting him up and Vassell would just like I mean not Vassell, McCain would just ignore him and just attack the basket and Wallace did it a couple times. And like just I mean he's going it was like in the second quarter, so it wasn't like the third or the fourth. So it was just like throw it in there and just see if he can keep it going. But I think you're right, it's more of a flow of the offense thing and it's just like any other I mean we're going to talk about one of the premier guys that built a type of offense like this where it's like it's Shea and then Shea just does what he wants and you just got to stand around. So the rest of the development isn't there for the other players that you want to develop because the ball's in Shea's hand the majority of the time. But we could talk about that later. Okay, and then yeah, last thing about the Thunder is Shea was he was fine tonight. He was good. He got to the line 17 times. Watched most of the game. I would say most of them were fouls, but it's like what we talked about before. It's like you could call foul on every single play, and especially in a series like this. So it just depends when they want to blow the whistle and when they don't. But I thought Shea played fine. There was a moment in like a stretch in the third where it seemed like he couldn't get his mid range going. But other than that, I thought he was fine.
Yep, and this another example of like I think the Spurs played him fine, but
Hmm.
they just fouled too much. And
Right.
some of them were like, okay, Shea doing Shea things, but like Castle fouled him like 40 feet
Right.
from
But
the
why are
hoop
you
on the
reaching
one, and
in? Yeah.
right, like we're not trying to prevent him from getting the ball when it's just you on him, and he's just trying to kind of box you out 40 feet to get the ball, and those that up because 7 for 19 isn't a great shooting night. 6 turnovers, like he looked a little
Hmm.
off kilter, but if you're going to put him at the line, yeah, he's a 90% free throw shooter. So you gave him like what 15 or 16 free points, and that really sets the tone. So I think they're doing a good job on Shea. Like
Yeah.
last game, even I think he had 19, but if you're gonna send him to the line that many times, it negates that effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Okay. On the other side, the Spurs. Let's talk about Victor because the one of the things that I've kind of noticed is like he has a really good game and then it almost is like he's tired the next game and then he has a really good game tired and obviously his stats are going to be crazy because again he's 7'7". Have you noticed the same thing or am I just kind of making stuff up? Because that's kind of what I know. Like today, it just didn't seem like he was very aggressive.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's probably up and down by how physical they're playing on him. It's a lot to do. I mean, he's obviously tall, but not a thick dude.
Right.
And it kind of grinds on you, and they keep doing it every chance they can get. There's a body on them, and I think this comes with like, and this isn't like putting down Victor, but when you're 7'4", 7'5", 7'7", whatever he is,
Hmm.
it's hard to dribble. Like
Yes.
especially on a good defensive team, and he got a little happy 0 for 5 from three tonight. And I think that comes with like you get tired of being pushed around inside and running up and down the court. But he's not an awesome 3-point shooter. Um, and this is like the downside of why like whenever we've talked about like who's the best player in the NBA, like I'm never going to pick a dude that probably can't create his own shot consistently. And I think most of the time Victor can, but in these premier matchups, it's hard. He's too tall to like create off the dribble himself all that much. And I think these are the games where you see it, where OKC gets up on him, they kind of keep him out of the paint, dare him to shoot, and he's just a good enough shooter that he's going to do it. But the physicality in that, it's probably hard for him, for anyone, to have to play 38 to 48 minutes and be the dude.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he like how old is he? Like 23, 22. So I mean like if he could develop like a post fadeaway shot, like he would just like get him 15 feet. Like he probably could get that every time. But yeah, I was just looking at his minutes he logged. So 49, 37, 39, 31, 38 minutes. So he's also been playing a lot more minutes than he did in the regular season where he averaged 29 minutes, right? Like he's playing almost 10 minutes longer every other night. So it's not like he's getting, sometimes they would just rest players from if they played like a back to back or whatever. You're not getting that here for this series. So I do think it's the physicality. I think he's a little tired, and maybe like this is going to be something like that they work on next season where they can up his minutes during the regular season so that when they get to the playoffs, it isn't going to be as taxing on his body. I'm just theorizing because I think that's part of it. I don't know if I'm right. I just feel like it's part of it.
Yeah, I think this is the difference when we talk about like big men of the past. Like you think of Shaq, even
Hmm.
Yao Ming, Tim Duncan, David Robinson was thinner, but he was a pretty ripped dude.
Yeah.
Um, those guys are a little bigger and kind of built for it. And like you said, Victor's 22. He's probably never going to be that big because it'd be hard to be that big and be his height
Right.
and keep some of the things that he can do. But this is some of the things when teams are prepared for you and they know they got to beat you and they're spending the game plan on it is, hey, you're going to get everything, all the Isaiah Hartenstein you want, all the Chet Holmgren, all the guards, Caruso, like getting under you. And that's tough to do. And I think, again, this is the difference between playoffs and regular season is teams are just locked in on this. And we saw game one, we saw game four. Victor can overcome it in stretches, but
Hmm.
part of it is like the Spurs getting out on the move. The defense isn't set.
Yep.
If the 3-point shot is falling, okay, then it changes that. But I think, they're just going to dare him at this point.
Yeah, right. And I think that's part like that's my theorization why he's tired. Because it like your legs are the first thing to go. So like then your shot goes, right? Like so who knows. Any other thoughts you have on the Spurs side of the basketball?
It's their shooting. I mean, tonight their shooting was terrible. Not so much the other night. 12 of 41 from three. Yeah.
I
Fox
felt
was
like they weren't
bad.
as aggressive this game. Like they were set there was moments where they were just settling for threes, you know?
Yeah, and I think they got a little panicky.
Hmm.
They got within seven a couple times, and then like either a turnover, like kind of a rush three, and Harper was what one of three, one of five total. Like I think he had three or four turnovers himself. Their guards like come and go, and
Yeah.
Castle was really good tonight. The other the other two were bad, and they especially against OKC they need them. And McCain outplayed probably all but Castle. So
Yeah.
that shooting, they had that stretch where they hit like 3 of 4 when it
Hmm.
was 20, and they brought it back, and they're like, oh, here we go. But then to your point, they got a little trigger happy,
Yeah.
and the OKC just wore them down.
Yeah, I think that's and the turnovers is really hurting the Spurs too. Like it seems like that will come with maturity is less turnovers in those situations, but I think they're averaging like 4 or 5 turnovers a game more than the Thunder. So if you score 4 of those times out of the five or 3 of those times, you're giving somewhere between 6 to 9 to 12 points, depending on what they score. You're giving that to them ahead. So especially the live ball turnover. So yeah, anyway. Anything else Spurs related?
I don't think so. I just, the guy Cornette came back to earth. He was playable in game four. Not really tonight. I just think the Spurs are a deep regular season team, but at this point, you're down to 7 guys
Yeah.
basically with Keldon Johnson and Harper, um, and not much after that. And
Yeah.
in the regular season, Cornette's fine. I mean, Carter Bryant got 5 minutes. He's young. Maybe something will come of that. But like even the last game, I mean, he had like 3 or 4 stupid plays when they were up, and they kind of like let him go because they were winning by so much. But
Yeah.
like he's young and he was in over his head, and you know, to expect you don't expect a young guy like that to contribute in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and unless like this might not be a good matchup for Cornette. That's what makes him like a role player. Is like sometimes in a playoff you'll find like Cornette might be good in a series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he might not be good in a series against the Thunder. Like that's what you kind of find out, and that's what we're kind of finding out right now as well. How do we feel about the officiating so far in this series?
It hasn't been terrible. Like tonight, again, they got a little foul happy in stretches where you're like, okay.
You could have called that in the first quarter, and now you're
I hate
now.
the they don't call it, and then the guy misses the shot, and then they call it.
Yeah, I hate that too.
That's not just specific to the series, but it was a couple of times tonight where you're like, just call the foul. The not giving the Spurs the challenge was a little weird.
Yeah.
But I guess I wouldn't complain outside of that. I mean, it's typical OKC stuff. Like we figured at home, they're going to get a few extra.
Mm-hmm.
They did, but I didn't feel like it was outrageous besides a few that you would be like, all right. I mean, it's a home game. I think 20 years ago, you'd be like, all right, yeah, the home team's going to get 2, 3, 4 more calls because the crowd, blah, blah, blah. I feel like it kind of falls into that for the most part right now.
Yeah, the Spurs won in game 4, I think. Game 4, and then game 5, the Thunder won. It's like that's what I'm used to with the series. That's why when we talked about the series by team got just royally out free throwed. That's what was baffling about it, because this is sort of the way it goes. You go home, you get some friendly calls, you get more free throws, and I think like the last game it was like 18-32 or something like that in favor of the Spurs. So I have no problem with the officiating. The thing is this is what you get with playoff basketball. We talked about it. Like they can blow the whistle when they want, and because everything is a foul. So, if the home team gets the favorable whistle every time, hey, get home court advantage then next year. That's what you got to do. So as long as they're consistent about it, I don't have too big of a problem with it. I did think the review thing was a little ridiculous, but I didn't see when he called for the review, but the ball I think might have already been checked in because the ref wasn't looking at him. I don't know because of the angles of it, but yeah, they should have got the review, but whatever.
Yeah. And I think game 6 on Thursday, I think we're going to see similar, the crowd's going to be crazy. I'm sure, Shea's not going to get a couple calls, early on, or, Hartenstein's he's going to grab and get calls right away, and the crowd's going to do his thing. Props to the lady in San Antonio with the Oscar.
I was going to say that was great. The fans for the chants.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great.
More heroes like that are needed these days. But, I haven't thought it's, besides a few stretches, I think game 4 was there like 39 fouls called in the third quarter, or whatever game that was. And you're like, okay, that's going too far where now we decide we're going to call everything that's technically a foul.
Yeah.
I would wish they would start a game. If you're going to do that, start the game that way.
Right.
And then set the tone and players adjust, opposed to letting the full half go and then come out in the third and be like, we're playing a different game. All right,
cool.
Up,
guys. Yeah. Like Caruso, I think, and Dort in game 4 only played a total of 20 minutes combined because they both had 4 early fouls. So it's just like, you could do that. Honestly, you could do that every game to them. That's why I'm just like, I don't know. Like, how do you complain about it? Whether either side, because Castle, he's all over Shea and bumping into him and reaching like every time. It's just what it is. So, anywho, okay, and yeah, Spurs fans, I wanted to make a note. Like, you guys are awesome. Like the flop chance. Clint mentioned the Oscar Golden Globe Award to give it to Shea. I love it. So keep it up. That's great. The players need to know that we don't want to watch some of this junk that they're doing. So, okay, you ready to move on to the next series? Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.